Hey everyone, Mitch coming for the Commander Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, it's going to be a deck tech brought to you by Evan, who's been supporting this channel as a general tier patron. I truly couldn't do this without the support from amazing patrons like Evan, so again, Evan, thank you so much. And for the personalized deck tech, Evan chose an aggressive blue deck built around Mistform Ultimus. Now, Mistform Ultimus is a very interesting and exciting commander. Before we jump into that, though, a quick reminder that on deck techs like this, I'm going to take you through different tactics, show you how this deck works, and how we're going to win with it. Also, every single card in this deck, including the commander, is less than $1, so it's a very budget-friendly deck. And of course, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into it. Mistform Ultimus, starting off with the commander, a 3/3 illusion that costs 3 in blue that has changeling. So it's every single creature type. Now, this commander is kind of a blank slate for us. It is one that we can do a lot of different things with. It is one that, well, can take advantage of essentially kind of any tribal interaction. Any of those lord effects that essentially say, hey, yeah, the wizards do this, or, spirits do this. Mistform Ultimus is all of those. It does every single thing that all those lords are going to, benefit it with. So, yeah, it is a creature that, again, essentially is just a blank slate to start off with, just a 3-power creature for 4 mana, but we can make it into an incredibly powerful force as this game goes on. It can do some really cool things. Again, taking advantage of the fact that it is every single creature type, which again is a pretty unique thing for a commander. Now, when it comes to this deck, again, in the tactics, we're going to start things off with our first tactic. Tactic number 1, we're going to start with some ramp. And of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice, go to a basic land, into play, tapped. We can also ramp with a lot of other great mana rocks, though, as well. Again, there's not a lot of, land ramp when it comes to blue, but yeah, hey, a lot of great mana rocks. Everflowing Chalice, a very flexible mana rock. Multi-kick it too. It's going to tap for the amount of charge counters on it, which is basically the number of times it was kicked. So yeah, on turn 2, sure, it's going to tap for 1. Turn 4, put more mana into it. Tap for 2, etc., etc., etc. Arcane Signet, just a solid mana rock, obviously. Taps for a color. Cool. Fellwar Stone. Also, most of the time, it's going to tap for a blue as well. Even if it doesn't, probably doesn't really matter all that much. Again, we're in a monocolored deck. Local Mineral Torque, taps for a colorless, can also make a non-land permanent into an artifact until end of turn. This can help us out in some situations. There are some interesting interactions that this can work with. Mind Stone, again, standard mana rock, costing 2 mana. Sacrifice it, go draw a card, though. Prismatic Lens. This one can actually filter our mana if we need it, but most of the time, again, hey, it's just an artifact that enters the battlefield untapped and taps for a colorless. Sky Diamond, this one does enter the battlefield tap, but it does tap for a blue for us. Again, very efficient, very effective mana rocks. We also do have Midnight Clock, which is a great one as well. Hey, tap for a blue, or we can get more hour counters on it throughout the turns, or, just by putting more mana into it. Essentially, once it gets that 12th hour counter on it, we exile it, shuffle our hand, graveyard, into our library, draw 7 cards. A great way to reset our hand if we need to. Warden Power Stone, another great mana rock. Very efficient, very effective. 3 mana, enters the battlefield tapped, taps for 2, so incredibly efficient for us. Speaking of efficiencies, though, we also have Mistform Warchief. This one can really help us out. Well, first up with our commander, because it says creature spells that you cast that share a creature type with it cost 1 less to cast. So, hey, our commander automatically meets that requirement, right? Because our commander is every single creature type, including an illusion, which it is inherently illusion too. But yeah, we can also tap and have become the creature type of our choice until end of turn, so that we can also help other creatures as well cost less. Like, Stony Brook Banneret. Hey, Merfolk spells and wizard spells cost 1 less to cast. And outside of our commander, we've got a lot of those as well. And finally, there's Kefnet's Monument, which is a great way to reduce the cost of a lot of our spells as well. Blue creature spells we cast cost 1 less to cast. On top of that, whenever we cast a creature spell, we can tap down an opponent's creature. Target creature spell controls does it untapped or gets throws next untapped step. So that way that tapped creature is not going to be untapped, and yeah, I can just keep it tapped down. And this can help us, get our commander through in a lot of situations. It can help protect us in situations as well. Got a lot of exciting things that we can do with a deck like this, and we're just getting started. So now let's move on to tactic number 2, though, and we're going to talk about some lords. Again, these lords apply not only to the creatures in our deck, but also, and most importantly, to our commander, which again is every single creature type. So we're going to start things off with Supreme Phantom, a very low to the ground lord, 1/3 flyer that says other spirits you control get +1/+1. So a great anthem effect for our, other spirits potentially, but also, yeah, our commander just getting an anthem with that. Wing Sliver. Our commander is also a sliver. Did you know that? Hey, all slivers gain flying. This does impact our opponent's creatures as well, so keep that in mind if they've got any slivers. But yeah, if they have slivers too, they're going to be impacting our commander most likely with their older ones like this one. So yeah, a great way to help get our commander through. Adaptive Automaton. This one's interesting. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and then it's a chosen type, and it chooses other types, and on top of that, other creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+1. So this one we can be flexible with. Again, we can choose any creature type, and it's going to apply to our commander. But again, if we've got a couple of wizards in play, or maybe some merfolk in play, we can choose whichever one is most beneficial to us at the time. Speaking of merfolk, Merfolk Sovereign, a great card. Other merfolk creatures you control get +1/+1, and we can tap and make target merfolk unblockable this turn, which again is applying to our commander. Again, +1/+1, a great anthem effect for that. And then, hey, Mistform Ultimus, let's get through. Let's be aggressive. Let's have you get through on an opponent. Speaking of another merfolk, we got Marrow Reejerey. Hey, other merfolk get +1/+1. Again, another great lord effect, another great anthem. On top of that, whenever you cast a merfolk spell, you untap or tap target permanent. So yeah, with our commander at the very least, this can just be, we play our commander. Cool, I can tap or untap something. Maybe I'll untap one of my mana rocks. Maybe, Worn Power Stone to get some mana back from that. Or maybe just say land if we need to. Min Wily Illusionist. This one's a very interesting one. Hey, if you're going to draw your second card each turn, which is not hard for us to do, we've got plenty of ways to draw cards. We get a 1/1 illusion. That's going to get +1/+0 for each other illusion we control, and our commander, of course, is counted in that count. Speaking of which, whenever an illusion we control dies, we can put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to that creature's power from our hand onto the battlefield. So this counts not only when these illusions die, but when our commander dies as well. So just some additional free value from that. Shadow Sliver. All slivers have shadow. This is fantastic. Basically, it's going to make our commander unblockable. Shadow means that only creatures with shadow can be blocked or blocked by creatures with shadow. So yeah, basically, our commander is unblockable. So good luck trying to stop us getting through with it. And yeah, then we can take our opponents out quite quickly once we get things going, making our commander into, at the very least, a 3-shot KO pretty quickly, but even a 2-shot or even a 1-shot KO in certain circumstances. So yeah, basically being unblockable is an incredibly powerful thing. Now our Mayhem Master Wizard, a way to copy one of our instant sorceries on ETB, so that can be a great amount of value. On top of that, again, an anthem for our commander as well. Other wizards you control get +1/+1. So yeah, definitely a great way to flash it in and just, maybe surprise an opponent with, some extra power for our wizards, including our commander. Wonder, this one applies to all of our creatures, actually. If it's in our graveyard and we have an island, and yeah, we're going to have an island, all of our creatures have flying, which again can just be a great way to, well, help us block flyers, obviously, but also get through on a lot of players. Flying is usually going to be enough to get through on certain players. Synchronous Sliver, another sliver that can really help us out a lot. All slivers have vigilance, a way that we can keep our, commander back on on defense, as well as, swing on offense more aggressively. So yeah, again, we've got plenty of ways to make our commander into an unstoppable force, and when we do so, having it back on defense too can really help us out. Finally, we've got Xenograph, which isn't really a lord, but it's an effect that can help out our lords, because it says, as it enters battlefield, choose a creature type. Each creature controls a chosen type, which is other types. So again, if we have a lot of those, wizard lords in play, or merfolk lords in play, we can say, hey, let's just put this in play. We're going to choose wizard or whatnot, and we can just benefit all of our creatures by turning them into that creature type, and then they get all the other lord benefits as well. So yeah, a really cool effect. Now when it comes to actually pumping up our commander, though, let's move on to the next tactic in making our commander even deadlier. We're going to talk about suiting up with some equipment. First up, Black Blade Reforged, a great one. Hey, equipped creature gets +100 for each land you control. Yeah, hey, the more and more lands we get to play throughout the game, the better this is going to be. And again, turning our commander into a 2-shot KO quite quickly with the right, situation. Imperial Plate, another one that can really help us out as well. Equipped creature gets +1 for each card in your hand. We've got plenty of ways to draw a lot of cards, so this can pump our commander quite a bit. Gavel the Righteous, this one throughout the game can build and become more and more impactful. Beginning of a combat on our turn, we get a charge counter on it. The equipped creature gets +1 for a charge counter on it. And if we've got 4 or more charge counters on it, the equipped creature has double strike. So again, making our commander, at the very least, into a 2-shot KO once we get that double strike requirement met with this one. Hero's Blade. Hey, if our commander is coming into play, this can attach to our commander for free for it, because it's a +3/+2, and it is a legendary creature, so it's going to come into play. Just automatically get equipped to it. That's pretty great. Inquisitor's Flail, speaking of pretty great, if we can get our commander through, this can be an incredible card. There's a high risk, high reward to it, because our commander is going to take twice as much damage, but our commander is actually going to dish out twice as much damage as well. So yeah, once we get things going, once we get more equipment on our commander, more lords in play, again, very easily a 2-shot KO, and in combination with certain things, a 1-shot KO, because this does stack with double strike. So again, like that Gavel or Fire Shrieker, very simply, can obviously give double strike as well. Next up, Stratascythe. Hey, Black Blade Reforged, this is basically a second copy in a way of that. Enters the battlefield, we go get an island out of our library, we exile it, and then our commander is going to get +1 for each island in play that we control. So yeah, this can be a giant boon to our commander, a giant pump effect. Locks and Warhammer, a great way to pad our life total and make our commander hit even harder. +3/+0, trample, and lifelink. Yeah, it's just a great card in this deck. Heirloom Blade. This is a very interesting one with this commander. +3/+1, so that's very nice. But also, whenever the equipped creature dies, we can reveal cards to the top of the library to reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with it, and we get that card into our hand. So basically, hey, our commander again has Changeling, so it's every single creature type. This is just basically, if your commander dies, you get a free card off the top of your library in your hand. A creature, any creature matches our commander's type. So yeah, this can definitely help us out a lot. Bone Horde, the longer the game goes, the more creatures are going to be in graveyards most likely. So yeah, this can be just a giant, well, creature in itself because it has living weapon, +X/+X for every single creature in all graveyards. So yeah, this attached to our commander later on in the game can be huge. Grappling Hook, yet another way to give double strike. And also we can basically kind of force a creature to block our commander if we need to. But yeah, the double strike thing is what we really care about with this one. Now, as good as all these cards are, there is one, in my opinion, that stands above the rest. So we're moving to the next tactic, which is the Golden Pig of this deck, which is the number one card out of our 99. And the Golden Pig for this deck is Multi-Class Baldric, a very interesting card with this commander. Equipped creature has lifelink if you control a cleric, death touch if you control a rogue, haste if you control a warrior, and flying if you control a wizard. And if you've got a full party, prevent all damage to be dealt to equipped creature, that's nice as well. But yeah, this only costs 2 to equip. It's a very cheap, low to the ground equipment that, yeah, our commander meets all those requirements. So yeah, again, our commander has Changeling, so it says, you know what, we've got all these things, so our commander is going to have lifelink, death touch, haste, and flying. Again, all from just this one piece of equipment. So this can be an absolute monster when it comes to attach to our commander, you know, helping with evasion, swinging right away, padding our life total, and just being deadlier. Again, in combination, death touch plus trample can be great. So yeah, a great card in this deck, one that is definitely worthy of the title of the Golden Pig of the deck. Now that we've talked about ways to, suit our commander up, though, let's talk about some ways to protect our commander and some of our other key pieces as well. We're gonna start things off with, well, you guessed it, yet another Lord with Lord of the Unreal. Illusion creatures you control get ++1 and have hexproof. Again, that counts our commander as well. So yeah, a nice pump effect from this very low to the ground Lord that also protects it too in a great way. Speaking of which, Rattle Change, our commander is also a spirit. So hey, Rattle Change is flash and flying, enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn. So again, protect our commander, very cheap, very effective. And on top of that, we can cast spirit spells as though they had flash, so we can cast, you know, our other spirits as though they had flash. We can cast our commander as though it had flash. This can be a very versatile and effective spell. Next up, we've got a piece of equipment that can really help us out as well. Hey, Swiftfoot Boots. Talked about how haste and hexproof are both great with this commander. Yeah, just very efficient, very effective. Get this equipped to our commander, save our commander. Kabbalah Warden of Waves, yet another great lord for this deck. Hey, spells your opponents cast the targeted merfolk cost 2 more to cast, so basically ward 2 for our merfolk, and yeah, basically abilities too. So this is before ward was actually a thing, but yeah, basically ward 2 for your merfolk. This again can be great for our other merfolk lords, for our commander as well, of course. Wing Boots, speaking of ward, hey, quick creature is flying, which is great. Again, a way to get our commander through in ward 4, which is a ton. That is an absurd amount for someone to have to pay on top of, again, whatever they paid for the spell they're casting to try to target our commander. So that can be just a great deterrent for our opponents. 3 and Power Suit, another deterrent as well. Quick creature, it's ++1 for each aura and equipment attached to it. So this can be a massive pump effect. And on top of that, ward 2. So again, a great way to protect our commander as well. Now that we've talked about, again, ways to protect, though, let's talk about some ways to actually get to all these great cards. Some ways to dig down deep into our deck with some card advantage card selection. First up, Pull for Tomorrow. Hey, draw X cards, discard a single card. Again, we've got ways to, you know, ramp quite effectively, quite efficiently. Let's pump a good amount of mana into that X. Robe of the Archmagi, a great one because it says equip Shaman, Warlock, or Wizard, which again, our commander is all those things for just a single mana. Very low to the ground equip cost. Whenever equip creature is converted to a player, you can draw that many cards. This draws an absurd amount of cards because again, our commander, once pursued up properly, can hit incredibly hard, get through a lot of the time, and again, with just this equip, very easily draw a ton of cards. Our commander can also help us out, though, with Call to the Kindred, which is an incredible card with this deck. Enchant creature at the beginning of your upkeep. You may look at the top 5 cards of your library. If you do, put a creature card that shares a creature type with the enchant creature from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest of the bottom of your library. Basically, hey, do you see a creature in the top 5 of your library that you want to get into play? Cool, get into play for free, because our commander, again, matches every single one of their creature types. Speaking of creature types, hey, a zombie. Hey, you got a lot of wizards in play, including your commander. You can now use them for card advantage as well. Tap it on tap wizard you control, draw a card. Very efficient and very effective. Seafloor Oracle. Whenever a merfolk you control does counter to a player, and again, we have a decent amount of merfolk in our deck compared to, or you know, in addition to our commander. Hey, whenever a merfolk does combat damage, we draw a card. Factor Fiction, just a great standard draw spell, essentially. Not really a draw spell, but a way to, you know, get cards off the top of our library. 5 cards, opponent separates them in 2 piles. You pick one goes in your hand, goes in your graveyard. Very efficient, very effective. Defiler of Dreams is a great card to save us some mana throughout the game. Basically, just cost cast blue spells. We can pay 2 life. They're going to cost bluest cast for the life we paid this way. Essentially, effect reduces only amount of blue mana you pay. Whenever you cast a blue spell, draw a card. Blue permanent spell, draw a card. So that's going to be quite a few throughout the game with this. Flow of Knowledge, a great new draw spell. Hey, draw a card for each island you control, which can be quite a few of them. Then discard 2 cards. Again, so yeah, you're going to have a lot of card advantage out of this 5 mana instant speed draw spell. Seagate Lore Master, a great way to draw multiple cards each turn, essentially, if this stays in play. Tap, draw a card for each ally you control. Counts itself, obviously. Will counter our commander as well. Unesh, a great way to reduce the cost of our Sphinxes, which is our commander. And also, it's kind of like a Factor Fiction as well, and enters the battlefield with 4 as well. So whenever this or another Sphinx we control, like our commander, enters the battlefield, basically get a 4 Factor Fiction. So yeah, a great way to get special value out of this. Now, moving on though, let's talk about some ways to throw a wrench to our opponent's plans. Starting things off with Alchemist Retrieval, a great flexible spell. Hey, pay 1 mana essentially to bounce one of your own non-land permanents back to your hand, so it's a great way to save something. Or if you pay 2, bounce an opponent's non-land permanent back to their hand. Imprison the Moon, a great and just kind of brutal way in some parts to actually just kind of permanently get rid of something in many situations. Enchant a creature, land, or planeswalker. It's now just a land that can tap for colorless. It loses everything else essentially. So yeah, it's a great way to shut down a player, at least temporarily, if they really are heavily dependent on their commander. Aetherize, hey, return all attacking creatures back to their hand. This can really slow someone down if they're being aggressive toward us. Just bounce everything back to their hand. Speaking of bouncing, Brawl's Expertise. Hey, we're going to bounce 3 things back to their hands. Creatures, artifacts, those are what we can do with this. And also, we get to cast something for free from our hand that costs 4 or less. So a great value play for us. Speaking of bouncing things, 5 mana, Aether Gale. Bounce 6 non-land permanents. Really efficient, really effective. Helps out in a ton of scenarios. Whelming Wave. We're going to bounce back every single creature back to those hands except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopus, Serpents. And again, our commander is all of those things. So our commander will not bounce, and the vast majority of other creatures will be bouncing. Mystic Confluence, a very flexible spell. We can either counter a spell unless they pay 3. We can return to our creature's owner's hand, draw a card. We can pick 3 of these things. We can choose the same mode more than once. River's Rebuke, set a player back to the Stone Age, bounce every single one of their non-land permanents back to their hand. Spectral Deluge, a great card for a mono blue deck. Hey, every single one of our opponent's creatures, we're just probably going to bounce you back to your hand. Return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less to overtake, or X the number of islands you control, and we can foretell this for an even cheaper cost as well. And then Scourge of Fleets, another one-sided board wipe in a way, but on an ETB that of course we can use and abuse with other, bounce effects to get us back to our hand. Enters the battlefield, again, bounce every single of our opponent's creatures that has a toughness of X or less, X the number of islands we control. So this can really help us out in a lot of ways. Now that we've gone through every single non-land card in this deck, though, let's quickly go through some highlighted lands. First up, Animal Sanctuary, a great card in this deck. Pay 2, tap, put a counter on target, bird, cat, dog, ox, goat, snake, doesn't matter. Our commander is all those things, so just put a counter on it. We can also pump our commander as well, Mishra's Factory. Tap, it's gonna target assembly worker creature gets +1 until end of turn. Our commander is also an assembly worker, somehow, all these things too. So a little pump effect there. Speaking of which, Mistress Foundry, another one. Hey, pay 1, tap, +2/+2 for an assembly worker. That counts our commander. Our commander is also a god as well, so Tirade Sanctum is great because we can just skip up to that 4, pay 4, tap, sacrifice, put an indestructible counter on target god. It's gonna be a great way to protect our commander, a really great way to keep our commander in play. It can be really hard to deal with that indestructible ability counter. And then Rogue's Passage, a great way to get our commander through. Pay 4, tap, unblockable until end of turn. Again, a great way with our commander, once it's suited up properly, to again either be a 2-shot KO for a player or a 1-shot KO for a player, just getting it through with just this simple land. In Riptide Laboratory, again, taking advantage of our commander being all creature types. Again, it is also a wizard. Pay 1 and a blue, tap, return target wizard you control back to its owner's hand. This can be a great way to do this. There's also other wizards that we have that this can either save or help take advantage of ETBs, etc., etc. So yeah, a great amount of lands in this deck that can be very impactful. But yeah, that was the deck tech on Mistform Ultimus. I hope that you enjoyed it. Again, if you are excited about this deck as well, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.